Welcome to Soup Crafts. I am Soup, and today I'm going to do a process video on my Craft Roulette card. In case you're asking, what is Craft Roulette? Craft Roulette is the ultimate game show card making challenge that's on almost every Friday night on YouTube live. On Craft Roulette, they spin for parameters. You don't know what you're going to get until after they spin. It's a lot of fun to try to figure out how to make a card or how to make a project with the parameters that you're given every week. If you haven't heard of it before, it's a great community and I highly recommend that you check it out. This week on Craft Roulette, the parameters are for project, an encouragement card, for colors, sophisticated, for element, house pets, and for random, thread or twine. Here's the card we're going to be making. It says, Happy Sweater Weather. Leave your worries behind. And maybe the new one won't be so smudgy on the back. For this project, I used the embossing folder from Park Lane called Herringbone. For our card today, I might try to use this Simon Says stamp embossing folder called Crisscross Floral. To start out, I'm going to use some carved pumpkin and a mask that I made. I had a couple of cloud border dies, so I just used them to cut this out. I'm also going to place a piece of scrap paper about 2.5 inches up from the bottom. Then I'm just going to take my cloud mask and I will start from the top. I'm pretty heavy-handed with my ink blending, so I need to get a lot of that ink off of there before I start. And now I'll just go ahead and go along this edge. Now I'm going to line my paper up on the top. I'm going to bring in some crackling campfire. And now I'll bring some vintage photo in from the bottom. Next, I'll go back to the crackling campfire and just bring that down a little bit further. Now I think I like that, so this is where I'll call it good. Next, I'm going to bring in a stencil that I made in Illustrator and cut out on my Cricut Joy. And I'm just going to use some of the crackling campfire, and I'm just going to pick select leaves. Then I'm going to come in with some walnut stain and add some more. Okay, I think that's good. Next, I'm going to take some vintage photo and I'm going to run that around the edges of the front of my card base. My sentiments are coming from a previous Hero Arts card kit. I'm going to stamp my Happy Sweater Weather in Crackling Campfire. For the second stamp, I put carved pumpkin on and put that over the top. So it's got a little variation in color. For the inside of my card, I'm going to go back to my cloud stencil and I'm just going to use what's left on my brush. And I'm going to try to use a light hand. And then at the end, I'll just come up from the bottom. Okay, I'm just eyeball centering my inside sentiment, which says, Leave your worries behind. And I'm going to stamp this in walnut stain. This stamp set also has some little leaf stamps in it, and so I'm just going to use those to stamp around my Leave your worries behind. This is a cluster of 3 and I'm using Crackling Campfire, and I'm going to go ahead and just stamp that on either side of the sentiment. And then there's a single leaf stamp and I'm going to use that to fill in and make a bridge between those 2 sets of 3. Next, I'll stamp the kitty cat with walnut stain. This cat stamp also came from a previous Hero Arts card kit. Now I'm just going to make a line across the bottom for the kitty to be standing on something. In the previous card, I used a fine point brown Sharpie marker. This time I'm going to use colored pencil. I think it matches the color a little bit better. We'll see if I can get this on there straight. You would think with a T-square I could do it. Okay, I like that. Okay, I've already got my little boots made, and I've got this kind of indigo colored paper. It's not very thick. It's really quite thin, but I think that will be good because it won't add a lot of bulk behind these boots. I'm just going to cut a strip of this out and then manually cut some legs. So I'm going to start out a little bit bigger than 3/4 of an inch, about 1/8 of an inch bigger. So what is that, 7/8? I don't know. Then I'll just cut that in half-ish. And then my boot tops are about 3/4 of an inch. So at the bottom, I want it to be about 3/4 of an inch. It's a bit longer. It's a bit wider than that now. So I'm going to actually mark this, I think. I'm going to put this at the front. I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to mark where the back of the leg is. And then of course, you know, legs get wider as they go up. And I'm going to actually end up cutting just a little bit more off because I want there to be an angle on this front side as well. Maybe we'll see that knee, maybe we won't. And then I'm going to just look and see how it looks. And if it looks okay, then I'll just copy it. And I think that's all right. So I'm going to use this as a template, but I'm going to put the knee a little bit more forward and the ankle a little further back because this leg is going to be bent a little bit more or have the appearance of being bent a little bit more. And then I'm just going to freehand this back part. I'm going to come in a little where the knee is and then come back out. Once we get those put on, it might not even matter, but we'll see because I'm sure they'll be cut down. But for now, here are my legs. I have this sort of woven stamp that I'm going to use, and I'm going to use chipped sapphire, and I'm just going to leave it right on this plastic. Okay, that should be good. Now I'm just going to take a blue marker. This is just a colorista marker called True Blue and draw in a seam up the side. And I'll just kind of follow the bend of the leg. Now we'll go back to the chipped sapphire and do a little ink blending. I'm going to focus mainly on the back of the legs and the bottom. The bottom will be covered up a good portion of it, so I'm coming up a little bit further. And then I do want to do a little bit in the front. And then I'll repeat for the other leg. Okay, now I want to have a little bit of sock sticking out the top, and I'm just going to use some scrap of the previous card that I made. And I'm just going to cut off one row, and then I'm going to use whatever's left on my vintage photo brush and just darken this up a little. And then I'm going to kind of measure with the boot. I want it to hang outside of the boot a little bit, so I'm going to cut these a little bit bigger, and then I'm going to round the edges until they look right. So I'm going to angle them a little bit because it's coming out of the shoe. Let me just see if that works. I think I need to slice that just a little tiny bit more. Okay, I like that. And while I have it like that and I got it fitting, I'm going to cut the next one. And now I'll round these tops. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and glue the socks onto the shoes. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to take what is going to be my sweater and I'm going to use my corner rounder and I'm going to use my largest size on the back of what will be the back of the sweater. It says R10. And then on what will be the front, I'll use the small size. This piece is about 2.5 inches wide, and I think that I'll probably have it be up about there. So I will cut it off here. I think that'll be all right. And I can have this leg coming back a little bit further. I don't know, I think that looks okay. I have fussy cut out my happy sweater weather. Let me just test that on there. Can maybe move these back just a tiny bit. I don't have the legs glued onto the boots yet, and I think that I'll go ahead and do that. Trickiest bit is figuring out how to position the legs, I think. But I do think that this is where I want this leg to land. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this leg down. I'm only going to glue up to about the knee because I'll want to cut some off of the top. And I want this boot to be straight on the ground. And then this leg will be probably about there. I want the sweater kind of centered. Yeah, I think that will work. This is why I use slow drying glue. Hopefully that looks all right. I just don't know about the pocket. Do you like the pocket or not like the pocket? What do you think? My husband really felt like it should have a pocket and there should be a hand in the pocket. He's always got to complicate things for me. But I suppose that's what husbands are for. Making that hand to go in it is ridiculous. That was the third attempt at a hand for that other pocket. So I already have that one or this one that I could try to use. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to put this up on foam. I'm going to clip these legs off first. All right, I'll go ahead and glue this hand in there for the hubs. I'm going to pop this up as well. You can see that I've stamped this a couple times. I messed up the first time. All will be revealed when you turn your cardstock over. Okay, on my last one I inked around this. I'm not going to do that this time. The colors are a little bit different and I think that it works out okay. Okay, now we just have to glue this onto the front. And glue the inside in and our card is done. Well, that's how I made a sweater weather card. Let's see if I met all the parameters. An encouragement card, I'm encouraging you to wear a sweater and to leave your worries behind. My colors are sophisticated because they're all kind of the orange-brown palette, well, minus the jeans. The element of the house pet is on the inside with the kitty. The random thread or twine, we have some sewn legs, so we use thread to do that, and probably to sew the sweater together too. And probably to sew the shoes together too, so I think we've got it all. And look, I even managed to keep the back smudge free. Not my hand. So here's my original card, and here's the card that we made together today. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.